Hello and welcome to another Delboy video. This is actually a second video of mine, which is a retrospective of certain films that I have. Films are very important to me, as are TV and soundtracks, and I've given very little love in regards to my channel at doing a retrospective of them. So I started to do this a couple of weeks ago and generally got a good response to them. And a friend of mine stated he would love me to do a retrospective of Creepshow. And Creepshow is the subject of today's retrospective. And it's quite an important one, really, because it's one of my favourite films and one that is interjoined with another hobby of mine, which is comics. So how did Creepshow come about for me? Well, I already knew about horror comics. Horror comics were around for me because my father used to buy me tales of suspense, weird science, comics like that, which in this country, in the UK, were mainly reprints. But on occasion, you could go to the spinner rack of a local bus shelter in my town and pick up the odd colour comic that had been imported into this country. And some of them were the original comics dating back many, many years, because they would be battered old comics that would have been part of the boat load that came across with the monthly comics. So because of their condition, they would have been on the top of a pallet, so not particularly good condition. So horror comics have been around for years and years and years after the war, and a very popular publisher was EC Comics. EC Comics were founded in 1944, and they found a foothold with crime stories and horror comics. Unfortunately for them, during the 50s, when comics were starting to wane in regards to sales after the war, a psychiatrist known as Frederick Wortham produced a book called The Seduction of the Innocent. And this was based on a paper that he had brought out, stating that comic books were degradationary to minors, and they increased juvenile delinquency. The argument went on for a couple of years, and in the end, it was decided that comic books should have a code of authority, and that's how the code of authority came about in 1954. EC Comics weathered the storm for as long as they possibly could, but in 1956 they became defunct. So I managed to get hold of comics like Weird Science and so forth like that in the late 70s through reprints. And later on, I would get interested as well in another publisher called Warren Publishing, and they came out with books like Creepy and Vampirella. Vampirella was particularly an interesting book for me, possibly because of my age and the way that the comic was drawn, where Vampirella was quite sexually drawn. And so from that point of view, the artwork intrigued me as being somebody that was just turning into their teenage years. But then in the 80s, something happened. I started to get involved with computers, and I was watching more and more films, and the advent of the VCR or video recorder came about. And one particular title intrigued me based on its cover, and that was Creepshow. I managed to go and see Creepshow at the cinema at a much later date, around a mid to end of the 80s. And I saw those when I went to film fests generally, where there would be a horror theme, and you would watch horror films one after the other for the advent of 24, 48 or 72 hours. But I remember picking up my sell-through copy of Creepshow, which was, an ex-rental, and I played it to death. And as my film collection grew, I started to buy it then on Laserdisc. Now, I was very, very lucky when I ordered the Laserdisc, because I bought it through Laserdisc Enterprises. And for the first couple of hundred editions that were sold in this country by Laserdisc Enterprise, it had a facsimile of the comic book that was featured in the film itself. And I've got a couple of examples of these here. So this is the Laserdisc of Creepshow that I got during the 80s. I still have it in my collection. It's a 2-disc set, and basically I've tried to keep it in as best a condition as possible, and I sometimes go back to it. And the comic book that this came with is here, which is just a facsimile. It's nothing special. Paper is very subgrade, but it's got the nice adage of having the advert of the voodoo doll, which is featured in the film, and it's pride and place with my Laserdisc. And later on, you could buy the whole comic book that was, which contains all of the stories of the film, and this one again is just a reprint. There is an earlier version of this, which is worth a bit more money, but the artwork in this is done by Bernie Wrightson, who is credited as well as doing the artwork, some artwork in the film. The artwork in this is really, really lovely. I wish I could show you better some of the artwork in here, but see if I can find a couple of examples. There's the head blowing off of Stephen King's character. That one is the lonesome death of Geordie Verrill. It's lovely, but one of my favourite stories is a little bit later on, which is called Something to Tide You Over, and we'll talk about those in a moment. But I missed the opportunity to buy the DVD because I'd recently bought the Laserdisc, and so I didn't come across Creepshow again until I bought a single disc version of the Blu-ray. This is important because I missed the opportunity of not only having a DVD copy, but also it featured a making of Creepshow called Just Desserts, which I do not have. But before we just get over to showing you the discs, I have to remember that Creepshow is now getting a re-release, and that's the one that I'm going to be showing off today. So the version that I really, really wanted, that unfortunately got damaged about a year or so ago, was this steelbook called Creepshow. It is sometimes considered a bootleg. We're not quite sure. It's from Spain. It's a lovely looking steelbook, but unfortunately mine is damaged, and I've repaired it as best as I can. You'll see it's slightly warped. And if we open it up, you get a fridge magnet. I don't know why that's there. And some lovely artwork inside, including some art cards. The art cards I particularly like. They're on glossy thick stock. And I'll just show you some of them. There we go. I don't know if you can see that in shot. Lovely shot there. Then we've got Something to Tide You Over. You see Ted Danson there. Then we've got Father's Day. Again, trying to keep that sheen off of it as best as I can. Jodie Verrill. Stephen King there. And then Something to Tide You Over. Just good, lovely Leslie Nielsen there, who played a great character in that particular section. More Father's Day. And just a couple more. Got the crate there, which is probably one of the longer stories in the set. And then the last story, Creepshow. There you go. And that concludes the Steel book, which unfortunately, because it came from abroad and turned up damaged, I didn't risk to get another one. But I did get my money back and was able to keep the original. So I was happy with that deal. But now we come to the newer version, which has come out from Screen Factory, which is this version, which comes in a lovely slipcase. But there is a more deluxe model of this. And as you can see, I haven't opened it. So we might as well make sure that that is corrected now. So I'm just going to open up my copy of Creepshow. See if I can do this in a timely fashion. Cellophane wants to stay stuck to it. There we go. I'll clear that up later on. So there we go. In a nice black 4K Ultra box. More of a slim case. I will put that there on the screen so you can see the extras. As you can see, there are lots. And that's because this comes on a 4K disc and also comes on Blu-ray. And when we open it up, we have just got the 2 discs. No booklet. In regards to the Blu-ray and the 4K edition. Like I say, there is a more deluxe edition, but it's quite hard to get hold of. So what is Creepshow? Well, Creepshow is an anthology type film. In other words, it's a film without one story, and is more made up of smaller stories to make up the whole. In this particular instance, there are 5 short stories. There is Father's Day, The Lonesome Death of Jodie Verrill, The Crate, trying to think now, Something to Tide You Over, and I always forget the last one, which is They're Creeping Up on You. That's right. And there is an inter story that's told at the beginning, which is told by a young lad that wants to read horror comics, but has an overbearing father that doesn't like him reading horror comics, takes it away and throws it away. And you can tell it's a father that beats up his child often. The end of that story is concluded with that page that I showed you in regards to the voodoo doll. So Creepshow was directed by George A Romero, who's got a very big pedigree in horror films, and is actually the first writing credit for film by Stephen King. The music was done by John Harrison, who hasn't done too much music work, but the music in this really was creepy and eerie. And I do have the soundtrack on vinyl. Unfortunately, again, most of my stuff is in stock. But I wanted to mention that part of the love of liking films is it also comes into your other hobbies, and in particular, my one is computers. And there is an actually uncredited version of the main theme of Creepshow in the film in a game called Staff of Karnath for the Commodore 64 back in 1984, for which I'll see if I could actually get that to play now. And I'll let you therefore listen to it. And like I say, it's amazing how certain hobbies intertwine with each other. And I was totally blown away when I bought that game and I was listening to that music while as the game was loading, just like you saw there. And I was going, I know that tune. Where's that from? And for years and years and years, it's gotten away with not many people knowing that that is the main theme from the film Creepshow. So why does Creepshow appeal to me so much? Well, not only does it intertwine with my computers and into my comics, it's actually an anthology story made up of 5 distinct stories, all of which are generally of pretty high quality. As I mentioned before, the very first one, Father's Day, it's basically around a person that wanted a cake for Father's Day, was killed, and all of the people are around at the house on the day of his birthday after he is dead, and he's resurrected from the grave and goes around killing them. It's that sort of story. Something to tide you over is the obvious jewel in the crown for me of this film, which has a horrible twist at the end, and a line that you just will not forget. And I don't want to give too much away because I'd like people to watch this film themselves. Creepshow was a minor hit. It does have the it does have the distinction of knocking Rambo First Blood off of the #1 spot when it was released. It wasn't on a very big budget. It cost 8 million to make, and on its box office return, it's made 21 million, which is not a bad return for a film like this. And one of the things that I still love about it is all of its practical effects, which is something that you'd come to expect from a George A Romero film. It did follow a sequel with Creepshow 2, which, although fairly well received, didn't get the same numbers as Creepshow 1. And later on, Creepshow 3 came out, which basically has no connection with the director, the writing, the music of Creepshow 1 and 2. And then we have to go forward a number of years, and we now get to the point where Creepshow is a TV show, for which there are 3 seasons available to buy, with a 4th season available this month. Just show you the Blu-ray copies of these. There is Creepshow Season 1, 12 Tales. Creepshow Season 2, 11 Tales. Lovely artwork on these. And Creepshow Season 3. Just there. And these can be found on the Shudder channel, which I believe is streamable in this country. And that really concludes my homage to Creepshow. I hope I got some information across there. To me, it's a sort of labour of love, this film. It has a little bit of everything, but it has a huge chunk of nostalgia for me. And so I was really glad to make this my second retrospective of films. And I hope that encourages you to go out and watch this film. And with that, I'm going to say salute and look out for the next one. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.